Welcome to Locality's Making Bank podcast, where we continue our exploration of South Florida's entrepreneurial landscape with host Keith Costello, co-founder and CEO of Locality Bank. Sit back, relax, and let South Florida visionaries guide you on an entrepreneurial journey from tribulation to triumph, sharing the very stories that have shaped them.
Javier Jorge, welcome to Locality Bank's Making Bank podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So this is a real pleasure because Javier not only is an entrepreneur, but he also works at Locality Bank. And I like to say, like, all the people that work at Locality Bank are entrepreneurs because we're an entrepreneurial bank. We're a startup bank, and everybody has to have an entrepreneurial spirit to work here. But Javier has taken it to another level, and he has started a company, or is in the process of starting a new company while he's working here in the role of Director of Government Guaranteed Lending. But also, not only that, but he started another company back when he and I worked together at First Green Bank, and he started a business there that was successful. So we're going to get into all that. We got a lot to talk about with Javier. So, but we're going to take it. I've known you for a long time. We've known each other since 2015, right around in there, 2016. But I'm going to take it from the perspective of our listeners. So we're going to go back. We're going to ask questions about where you grew up and your family life, and tell us about your early days.
Oh, back from the beginning.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
well, I'm probably one of the few people that can say I was born in Miami.
Okay.
Right? Everyone else apparently has moved away from wherever they're from with good reason, right? And I also extend that sentiment to my good friends in Fort Lauderdale. But we won't talk about the Miami-Dade Broward divider, right? But I was born in Miami. When I was 10, my family moved to St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay.
So I would say my informative years were in the Tampa Bay area. So high school, college. I'm a bull when University of South Florida.
And your parents were immigrants, right?
Yes. Both of them immigrated from Cuba at two different times. They've met in Miami. My father immigrated in the 60s. My mother immigrated in the 80s. And they met in Miami. So
you're first generation American.
That's right.
That's
Yucca.
awesome.
Yucca, young urban Cuban America is the term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff too. I don't know if you like it.
Love Yucca.
But, Tampa was a really... what I would say is what got me going in a lot of ways, right? Obviously, got my education there, but right out of school, I started working for a bank.
Okay.
Yeah, a little community bank called C1. That was back in 2000, let's call it 11 or 12. Man, everything's blurry now.
And that was kind of after, so you went to University of South Florida.
Yes.
Right? You got a master's degree. And then you went out, and what did you do first?
Well, if I'm going to put all the cards on the table.
Put all the cards on the table.
All the cards on the table.
Yeah.
So I started USF at high school to be a dentist.
Okay.
I was pre-med.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can imagine me yapping away.
You got some good teeth.
With your mouth open. But everyone would be at a disadvantage, right? I would be in their mouths. They wouldn't be able to talk back. So probably wouldn't have been too fun. So what I did, what most people do.
That actually would have been perfect for you.
Fair. Maybe I should rethink. But that was around 2006, and a lot of my friends started getting into real estate. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, who needs education? There's so much money to be made on real estate. So I dropped out. I'm like, I'm not going to be a dentist. Okay. I found out they had the highest suicide rates. I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those guys. I love my dentist. So I drop out, I become a real estate appraiser, and I start doing real estate investing with some friends, and we had a great time. I was in my 20s making money. It was like easy, like, oh my God, the party will never end. And then 2008 comes along, right? And then the music stops, and I remember going from doing 30 to 40 appraisals a month to doing like one, right? So
and that was usually a workout.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I didn't have the banking relationships at that point. They were all like on the front end. And I was married, and I still needed to pay the bills. And the only job I could find was in pest control. So I went from a college dropout to real estate, doing, I thought was amazing from my perspective, and then pest control. And I think the person who hired me felt so bad because I'm like, I really need a job. They gave me the only job that was available, which was spraying. I sprayed Publixes. And then from that point forward, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to have to like grind it out. And they had a tuition reimbursement program.
Wow.
So what I did was I would go work from about 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., be inside every Publix on the western side of Florida, 256 Publixes. And I know them all by heart. And when I would get off, I would start night school at University of South Florida, re-enrolled, did the tuition reimbursement. So I then, I re-enrolled in a finance major because I wanted to understand why the music stopped. I didn't understand before. I probably still don't understand today, but I have a better idea. I think as good as most people now have in retrospect. And I learned in finance is that no matter how smart you are, you're never going to beat the market, right? And you're never going to beat the entire system, which was a little bit depressing, but also hopeful because there is knowledge and advantage at scale and cooperation. So that kind of left a lot of good lessons for me. So I finished my finance degree. I got my MBA. I just keep that same routine. God bless my amazing wife for tolerating my crazy hours and lack of attention to her for that long period of time. And decided that, once I graduated, I should probably get out of pest control and get into a finance career. So that's where I entered C1.
Okay.
And I had no idea about community banks, right? When I graduated, I wanted to be an investment banker. I wanted to be, one of the big boys. And a little community bank reached out, and I had the opportunity to interview with the CEO and the president and the chief lending officer, which was a very new experience for me. I never had exposure to top leadership before in my other jobs. Little did I know it was a community bank where that was half the staff. But it was a great opportunity. I thought, oh man, community banking is so cool. C1 was very progressive in their, culture. They had open floor, no offices, polos for uniforms. Very, very innovative. The technology wing, putting out patents for tech. I'm like, man, community banking is awesome. And then I find out they were not the norm in the space. They were aggressively growing through acquisition, and the need arose in their South Florida expansion, amazing rollout into Miami through the team that they hired, but they needed a small business specialist, which they couldn't find any. So they looked around the office in St. Pete, and that loud Cuban who wouldn't shut up. Let's send him down to Miami. I never forget Trevor, the CEO. It was September. He's like, Javier, do you like working here? He's like, yeah, I love working here. It's great. It's like fantastic. We need you to do something. We need you to move to Miami next month. And I'm like, oh, okay. That wasn't at the top of my list. Went back to talk to my other boss, my wife. And luckily, she said, we agreed that this is probably, you can't tell the CEO no too many times, right, Keith?
Yeah.
Right. So we said yes. And next thing you know, in 2014, me and the missus and my, at that point, 1-year-old son moved down to Miami, where I started what I really considered my true banking career in small business. Mm-hmm. So several institutions between then and here, not to go too in depth, but C1 sold to Banco ZK. I left with the SBA team to join an LPO for a small community bank out of Missouri called Midwest Regional Bank. That was a big learning experience as far as what not to do, right? And that one in particular was make sure you have scale in your operations while you're scaling sales. Big lesson there. And we were able to get a lot of deals approved, but we didn't get anything closed because it all got log jammed in our closing processing, right? So lesson learned, put that in your back pocket. During that time, I don't know, some very outgoing individual reached out on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know who that is. But, I think was really intrigued about hiring the team. And then I think at that point, my boss had already left to join another institution. So the team was kind of falling apart, the Florida LPO team. And, I think that individual being you, Keith, was looking to hire a SBA specialist or director for your current institution at the time, which was First Green Bank. I didn't know what I was doing. And I said, hey, take a shot on me. We go to lunch. I think I fooled you pretty well.
You didn't fool Drew, though.
No, that's the best
Drew
part.
called you out.
Oh, my God. That's the best part. I never hold it. Every time I bring it up. You asked me to interview with Drew. I go next door. We sit down with Drew. Drew asks me all the important questions, and I'm very transparent. Originated 11 million. We closed nothing. And I told them the why. Yeah, fantastic. And I go away. I'm thinking, oh, man, I hope this goes well. Come to find out, Drew said, don't hire that guy. He didn't close a thing. Forget about him. Thank God you didn't listen. And that's when my SBA directorship job started. And from that point on, I've been functionally in that same role at any institution that I've been luckily to be employed at. As you alluded to in the intro, that's when I also learned the entrepreneurial bug that I've always had really come out in the banking world. And I just hated tax returns, Keith. It was just like the amount of tax return reviews that we were doing day in and day out when we're doing SBA loans. Sparked a conversation with one of my good friends about, trying to alleviate this pain point that I have and many other people in the industry have, which was the genesis of my first fintech called FlashSpread.
Yeah.
And that's where we put together a business that would automate the process of extracting information from tax returns and ultimately other documents and importing them into bank underwriting, loan origination systems, or core systems. So that's the one that you invested in. Gave me a lot of great advice, right? Be transparent, communicate. I think you shared some personal experiences that you had.
So the FlashSpread experience, so that was really interesting because, Javier was working at First Green and, shared with me that he had created this business. And I was like so impressed that he had, plus he was doing a great job with his other job.
Small detail, right?
Yeah, right.
I was still hitting the numbers.
Yeah. No, but I mean, so how important is that? If you came to me and said, "Oh, I'm starting this other business," and you were not, hitting all your numbers with us, then it'd be like, okay, why don't you go work at that business? But he's able to pull both things off at the same time, which is really impressive. So when you started, I guess I know why you started, because it was really trying to really make your own life easier, right? At your job. What did you go out and have to raise money? And tell me about that.
The answer is yes. And it was, I've always was curious about the entrepreneurial path and learning how other entrepreneurs have started their businesses and grown. One of my favorite things to do is to learn about businesses, the founders' background, the originating stories, and how they get there. What's amazing, there's many paths, right? There's not one path, but there are paths that are tried and true. A great book that I decided to emulate the FlashSpread process was Eric Rice's Lean Startup. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal book, quoted significantly in the Valley, and heralded as one of the core processes or at least templates on how to start a business, right? And it's, its core principles are very simple. Try to create a minimal viable product that can demonstrate whatever core value proposition you are trying to prove. Continuously iterate on feedback from customers until you get to what's in the book called proof of concept, or POC. Proof of concept means that the value you're providing is enough for the outcome you're looking for, whether that be an exchange of money in a sale process or signups, whatever the metric is that you're looking to accomplish. If your product gets you there, you stop your development and then you go to scale, which is get it to the marketplace, and then you continue to iterate at a larger scale perspective. But key lessons there were, you know, if you're not embarrassed about your product at launch, you launch too late, right? Obviously, it needs to work, not put anyone in danger, be regulatory compliant. But outside of those core requirements, you know, get it out in the marketplace, because what you think is important may not be what the customer ultimately thinks is important.
And all that customer feedback that you get that allows you to iterate, improve, and make it better. So, and that was a success for you. So you launched that. What advice would you have for somebody who's listening, who's working, not necessarily in a bank, but working at a company and also has that entrepreneurial spirit and drive? What advice would you give them in terms of pursuing that?
Well, I think at the core, and what an entrepreneur means for me is someone who solves problems, right? So, we come across problems every day, especially in your domain expertise. So you are the best person to be an entrepreneur. You're the best person to help solve that problem because you have more knowledge and background about what works and doesn't work. The idea of the young, college dropout entrepreneur, that's more the exception, not the rule. If you really look at statistics, the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that are older or more experienced in their industries, and frankly are iterating from core business functions that they do today, right? So, I would say understand that you can be curious and be very humble. Failure is part of the process. One of my favorite quotes from the founder of Reddit is, successful people fail more than other people try.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. And well, there's truth to that, right? Because, the road to success is just littered with bodies of failures, and being comfortable with that, understanding that each failure was an opportunity to learn, albeit probably expensive. But the important thing is you don't make that same mistake twice.
So what about if somebody's working at a company and they decide that they want to be entrepreneurial and they see something at work and they're like, hey, like you did, right? I'm going to start a company that will do this. And they go to their boss and they say, hey, I want to start this company on the side, and the company, whatever, the boss says, well, let me run it up the bureaucratic ladder. And the answer comes back and said, no, you can't do that. What would you say to that person?
Well, what I would encourage them is to respect their employer, right? And make sure that you're doing your responsibilities and requirements. Because, if you're like me, you have bills to pay and you had a family at home, right? But, you have your time. You have your free time, you have your evenings, you have your weekends. I choose to take my time and focus on these things because I actually enjoy it. I think it's very interesting. And I would bet if you're willing to bring this up to your boss, you're going to be enjoying it as well. So look for win-wins, right? Look for the opportunities that bring value for all stakeholders. In this case, if your employer isn't going to be receiving some benefit from it, then, understandably, they're compensating you for your time, right? That being said, if you get, there's different stages. If you're at the idea stage, I would not say quit your job. I would say get to an MVP, prove your concept, and then at that point, look at scaling.
Okay. And maybe there are organizations out there that will be more friendly.
i.e. Locality.
Well, I think when I look at your situation, it's one where if somebody's able to do a great job in their role at the organization and still have the energy and drive to start a business that's going to not just provide an entrepreneurial experience that could be very beneficial for you, but it's also going to benefit where they work, right? So to me, that's a smart thing to do, is to encourage that type of entrepreneurship. So let's jump ahead a little bit, right? So now I'm going to tell a little story. So Javier initially was one of our founders of Locality Bank, along with Drew Sato and Corey LeBlanc and myself, and we're all, kind of getting together. And Javier had a situation occur where a credit union bought the bank he was at the time, and they just really gave him a type of a situation where it wouldn't have been smart for him to leave at that time. And so since that time, he has served out his time there at the credit union and has returned to us. So we refer to him as the prodigal son because of that return back, little biblical reference. But it's been great because now he's come back and is really filled a void here at Locality in terms of leading our government guaranteed lending area. But that, in addition to, he's got a new idea that he's launching that is called Chatbiz. Why don't you tell us the origin of Chatbiz and how you happen to come up with that?
Well, thank you. And thank you again for allowing me to come back after you, Drew, and Corey did all the hard work.
Drew was against it again, but
of course,
Corey and I outvoted him.
Well, thank God. Thank God. But, Chatbiz really is the culmination of my experiences over the last decade between what I learned as a director of government guaranteed lending products, primarily SBA, as my time as an entrepreneur, or understanding the gauntlet that is the entrepreneur path of company formation, management, oversight operations. It's very hard, especially when you're navigating in a highly competitive marketplace. And also, lastly, in my philanthropic work, I've spent the last 7-8 years working with what I call small business resource organizations in our community. And what I did to do business development in my marketplace, and predominantly when I worked at other institutions, those institutions did not have a physical presence in the South Florida market. So the way that I generated business development opportunities was by becoming a domain expert, as well as providing resources to my clients in the form of all the relationships and understanding of all the organizations in my community. So that was my value proposition. And over time, it's been proven to work through the loan productions at the different shops. Chatbiz is what, frankly, you and I have been talking about from all those, trips that we took to go do the SaaStr North Conference in Ottawa or Money Conference in San Francisco, which is how do you build relationships at scale, right? And, I know how hard it is to apply for an SBA loan. I also know how hard it is to apply for a grant or just receive technical assistance, or even, unfortunately during PPP and the COVID perspective, right? During disasters, how hard it is to get emergency relief when you need it. The common thread there has always been those businesses that had A, the relationship, and B, their information already submitted and what I call digitized, right, readily accessible, receive these resources immediately. So the idea at Chatbiz is really to take everything that we just discussed and put it on one platform to take advantage of centralizing these efforts, right? Instead of asking a small business to apply to every institution, every nonprofit, every government organization for each individual resource, you go on Chatbiz and you apply once. And what Chatbiz does is takes that information and then sends it to all of those parties verified by the platform. So it streamlines what I call the resource discovery process and rewards the business instead of punishing the business for transparency, right? So how it's going to work, day one, is we're launching in South Florida next quarter. And we have very fortunately gotten a few dozen nonprofits and organizations to provide their resources on the platform.
So just so we're not sure when this is going to air. So when you say first quarter of 2025. Yep.
Fantastic. I forget for the archives. And then invite the small businesses to claim their profiles and find out what resources they are already entitled to. And that over time, the idea would be to help these businesses grow and expand, and then earn the opportunity to give them an SBA loan at Locality Bank or any other institution that wants to provide financial or other services to the businesses. But a business that is organized and puts all their information and that's verified and confirmed is a significant value, because then that unlocks all these other resources that they may not be aware of. Selfishly, for a banker, my perspective is, if I'm going to give a loan to someone, A, I want to know who they are, right? So that's what the data gathering is. But B, the philosophy, at least from my perspective in my industry, has really been, you give a loan and then you check up once a year through annual reviews. Maybe if you're a really good lender, you do a call a quarter, right? But that's the extent of the involvement between the lending institution and the borrower. Mm-hmm. I would like to enhance that where it's a continuous process, and the expectation on behalf of the platform would be, in exchange for that information, I want to continuously give you more resources, more opportunities for them to reach their goal, right? It's an itch I've had for a long time. Thankfully, we get to see if my assumptions are correct. But, the other thing that I think I would like to share about this process is, becoming an entrepreneur and going through these challenges or obstacles has allowed me to grow and understand the perspective of my clients. And also expanded my relationships, where now I think I have a very 360-degree view of the current the circumstance of the small business owner. Mm-hmm. I'm very optimistic. I think small business, honestly, is what makes the United States the greatest country in the world. And my logic there is, capitalism is one of the forces that has allowed to keep healthy democracies. And I think a healthy capitalistic society is one where you have a lot of competition, and you can't have a lot of competition if you don't have a lot of new entrants. And the nice thing about all the big business is you can't have big business unless you have small business, because they all started in a garage or in a dorm room or in an office park. And we can talk about a lot of the big players who got SBA loans, like Nike or Ben & Jerry's. But my thought process here, and frankly, I think the worst thing in the world, this is the best way to put it, the worst thing in the world is wasted potential, in my opinion. And I think that it can apply to any circumstance. So if we can figure out how to save and maximize the potential of our small businesses by helping them do the non-core activities or access resources so they can focus on whatever they're good at, whether it's, hospitality or legal, whatever they're really good at, let's help them become the best at that. And if we as financial institutions can do a better job of that, then we can reduce risk, reduce cost. So it's this feedback loop of win-win-win. That's the utopia I want to live in, and I'm going to do my part to try to build it.
So we sum that up as empower local companies to maximize their potential.
What a surprise!
Which Javier came up with when we were putting our plan together, and which you use with Chatbiz, which you used at your credit union. Yeah. But it's a great saying, because it really kind of sums that all up. Really, you're trying to unlock that potential that exists in every small business, that needs access to capital, that needs grants, that needs help from the SBDCs, and they don't know where to go. And there's tons of them out there. But so, I mean, just a really exciting project, and we're happy you're back here and launching it.
So am I.
And looking forward to being an investor in this one too, Javier.
Checks in the mail.
So let's shift now. Any final thoughts before we shift to the lightning round?
I'm ready.
You ready for the lightning round?
Happy to be at Locality. Ready for the lightning round.
You want to put your meta glasses on? Let's put the meta glasses on for the lightning round.
Meta glasses on. Okay.
So we don't know what he's looking at back there, but he's going to have some.
I'm going to have a little
hints, some clues. Okay, so we'll start with your favorite book.
My favorite book right now. My favorite book, I would say, is Ryan Holiday's "The Obstacle Is the Way."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did not expect that.
Yeah, I know.
That was a total curveball. Yeah. So tell us about a song that is like your theme song.
My theme song. Oh, man. I think The Eye of the Tiger is like anytime I try to get into a workout, it's like my starting one. Yeah.
I love that one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I ever received. Attitude is a choice.
Great. What about stay married?
You did tell me that. But
that's not the best.
I have listened to it.
You're still happily married, so that's good. So AI, you've got the meta goggles
I'm all in,
on.
Baby.
Yeah.
I'm all in. I mean,
so you don't fear it. You're positive.
You look over the generations. Every time there's been a massive general application of technology, you get the Luddites, right? People say doomsday this, doomsday that, and time again has been proven wrong, right?
How about the elevator? Like when they first had elevators without elevator operators?
No one wanted to get in.
No one wanted to get in that thing.
Yeah.
It's like an auto drive car.
And then they have 100-story buildings now. So there you go.
If you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, who would that be?
Marcus Aurelius.
Wow. You're getting all stoic on us all of a sudden.
I'm going in head first.
I send out the Daily Stoic to my kids every day.
Well, I listen to the Daily Stoic every day.
Okay.
Fantastic.
What's a travel destination that's on your bucket list?
It's on we talk about Thailand. I want to go to Thailand during the Candle Festival. Where they get the
I have no idea what that is. But
my wife tells me all the time, so she wants to go, I want to go.
Perfect. Okay, now I know you're a foodie. What's and you can go.
This is easy.
Okay.
This is easy.
What is
I looked up
favorite restaurant?
Lung Yai Thai. Shout out Calle Ocho, Little Havana. Lung Yai Thai. Michelin bib mention. Great, best Thai food in the States.
Okay.
Period. Point blank.
Wow. What's something you're grateful for today?
My family. I think frankly, people need to be grateful about just being alive today. It's best time to be alive ever in the history of mankind right now.
Who's someone you admire and why?
Alive? Oh,
it doesn't have to be alive.
Abraham Lincoln. Everyone talks about, greatest president of all time. So I thought, I wonder why. You saw the movie,
right.
The history. But the guy's humble beginnings, self-taught, he would fight for books so he can read them over and over again, and from just abstract poverty, and then becoming what would some consider one of the best presidents of U.S. history. Very, very inspiring.
Incredible story, yeah. What about a fear that you've overcome?
Fear of failure.
You've overcome it?
Oh, yeah, all day. I get used to failing.
Cool. And what about an activity that you've taken up, like
cycling?
Hobby? Cycling, yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of cycling.
And tell me about that. Like, how far are you going now?
Oh, well, weekends? Sunday was a tough one. Saturday, we did 70 miles, and it was windy. Man, that kicked my butt.
Wow.
It was brutal.
And I know you're always like improving yourself. So what's a new skill that you're working on right now?
Oof, a new skill. Well, I'm getting more into stoicism. I'm working on self-care, right? Okay. Understanding what I can control, what can't control.
And so there may be people out there listening that want to invest in Chatbiz. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can reach me at, let's put my email address, javier@chatbiz.us. Would be the easiest way. Yeah.
You want to put your cell phone out there or not?
Yeah.
You don't have to.
And if you need an SBA loan, 727-432-0428. That is my personal cell phone.
Right. So if you need an SBA loan or you're interested in Chatbiz,
I'm happy to chat.
That's Javier. And your locality email is
jjorge@localitybank.com.
There you go. So you can get a hold of Javier in those different ways. Listen, it's been great having you on, and I'm so happy that you're back here at Locality and that you're launching Chatbiz, and I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Locality's Making Bank podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to catch the latest episodes, and visit localitybank.com today to learn more about all the benefits of banking local.